This is Bill McMinn from Eagleville Bible Church, and this is the Way to Go podcast, where we talk about faith, family, and daily life, putting the Bible into practical, everyday terms. Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm Bill McMinn, along with me, Jay Hutchison. So, Jay, good to have you here. Appreciate it. So, you're about to start a Bible study at the church, so we wanted to talk about that some, and it's for men, specifically a men's Bible study for
sex/porn addiction.
Okay.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh, no, I'm glad we've done one before too.
Yeah.
We'll probably do a couple here, on this topic. I think it's, what are the percentages of people that really do struggle with this? Because it's higher than we probably like to think it is.
Yeah. And it might be even higher than what they say. So what they say in the church is about 7 out of 10 men struggle with some form of sex addiction, whether that's porn or anything else. And whether that's, maybe looking at porn a couple times a month or, going to, seeking out prostitutes or whatever, but, maybe a couple times a month or maybe, daily or something like that. But, and then women, I think the number's like 3 out of 10 or maybe even 4 out of 10. But those are the numbers I've heard.
Yeah, kind of staggering.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I'll hear those numbers and realize, okay, well, maybe not here, but church and general church. Because divorce rate, 50%, what I say it's 50% out of the people that I've known over the last 30 years. No, like 50% of the people I know have clearly not gotten a divorce. But we've had a lot of people come to the church that have been.
Right.
Coming
well,
from
were you talking about divorce rate or were you talking
divorce
about
rate? Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about sex addiction.
No, I'm just comparing the two.
Okay.
So in other words, that the divorce rate isn't actually as high in a conservative Bible believing church as what the national standard is.
Right.
So I look at porn addiction. I would hope that 7 out of 10 guys, honestly, are either consulting a prostitute or looking at porn.
Yeah,
a couple times. You hope so.
You would hope so. It's just that there's a book called I think Out of the Shadows that it's written by Patrick Carnes, and that's kind of what I was thinking about. I was thinking about things the other day, and I was thinking about there's so many men out there that are kind of hiding in the shadows, and it's a very shame-based addiction. And even me coming here right now and leading up to this and preparing for it, I was kind of full of shame because sometimes I feel like I'm all alone, even though I know I'm not. I know there's, and especially with cell phones, and it's just everything being at the tip of our fingers these days. So I know it is a big issue. It's just I don't think we're not going to put it, if we're struggling with it, we obviously don't want to put it out there, especially if we're we're Christian, we're raised Christian, and that was the thing about myself that I hated the most was my porn addiction and that side of me. But so that's why it was so hard to get out of it because I was, I wanted to do it on my own because I'm full of shame. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, and I'll make promises to God, like okay, this is it. This is the last time. I'm not gonna do it again. And then, keeping it in myself, I invariably fall into it again. So it wasn't until I reached out to other men and started going to a group and actually started sharing my story and participating and making it a point that, I don't, if I sound stupid, I'm going to, every group I go to, I'm going to share. If I sound stupid or if I don't make sense, oh, well, these guys are just going to have to deal with it. But the reality is that that's not the case, and then also if I ever had a trigger and something small where maybe I might see somebody at the grocery store where I might want to lust or something, I would reach out to the guys and just, no matter how small, I would say, hey, this happened. I just want to put it out there because I don't want it to grow. So.
Okay. So you want to keep it. So the accountability was a big deal.
Massive. Yeah. I couldn't have done it by myself. There's no way, I just keeping it in the shadows. I would just, I would fail, no matter, and it has nothing to do with me not loving Christ. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, stuff happened in my past, and this became my drug of choice.
Right.
So, and that's another thing, like in the group where we're going to get into, we'll talk about, our past trauma and how we, how that kind of shaped where we are today. And so I think of it as a men's group because, most men in one shape or form or another, we do deal with lust. It's an issue. So,
Well, three things. I mean, you just talked about trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So some things are dealing with past trauma. Then we deal with lust. That's two things. And also there's a Bible study that you would like to do or a group study on this topic. What is the book that you're going to use?
So the group is, or the book is, the curriculum is 7 Pillars of Freedom.
Okay.
It's by Dr. Ted Roberts. So it's just kind of I've done other ones. This one is, I guess, the 7 Pillars. It's kind of structured. I think it's kind of structured like the 7 Pillars are taking the place of like a 12-step kind of thing.
Okay.
And so it's just really unpacking everything and we're
how
just
often do you want to meet?
We're going to meet the first and third Thursday of every month. So twice a month.
Here at the church.
Yeah, here at the church.
Right. At what time?
At 7 o'clock.
All right. 7 to
8:30.
Okay. So 7 to 8:30, which is roughly like a Celebrate Recovery time, because
Right.
Celebrate Recovery would be 7 to 9.
Right.
But so you would be here 7 to 8:30 twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some Bible studies that I've done are 10 weeks, some are 12 weeks, some may be longer depending, but they always have a stop to them, that we're doing this for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
This is, now I hear 7 pillars, but how long then does it take to go through the 7 pillars? Like how many kind of lessons are in that?
Well, I don't know how many lessons are in
Okay.
there, but how
More than 7.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's, but, so I went to a group when I lived in Florida, and we would go through a book and just, there's guys getting in there at different times. So
Right.
one guy might, come in week 4.
Okay.
So we're not going to start over then. We just keep going because there's always good lessons. And so that's how I envision it, just starting at the beginning and even
And all
if
year.
Yeah, and even if
this
I'm
is
there,
like it all year. This is like it all the time. This
yes.
isn't. I think that's my point. This is not 12 weeks and you're done.
No.
And this is a continual effort, just like the Celebrate Recoveries or an AA
exactly.
or whatever. I mean, you're continually, for your own healing, you're going to be part of this group.
Yeah, one of the guys in the group that I went to before, he called it the 99-year plan. So that's what it is. It's because most of us, I mean, I'm 46. I'm not going to probably live to be 145. So
Right.
a 99-year plan is pretty good for me. So,
Right, exactly.
So, but for me, this is I'm kind of excited about it because it's accountability for myself too.
Right.
Iron sharpens iron. So, I mean, even I've been sober from pornography for 3.5 years, almost 4 years. So even being away from it that long, I still desire accountability.
Who do you get accountability from now? Like, do you have friends that you talk to, or?
I've got a group of guys still from Florida that we regularly talk. So if I have anything, I'll reach out to them. Right. But yeah, I did go to Celebrate Recovery, but I think I see the need for something more geared towards sexual addiction.
Right.
So that's why
it is an addiction, and yes, you can be in denial, and you can make excuses, and you can justify, just like any other addiction, but it's still different.
Right.
It's its own animal, right?
It is.
So,
But it is very similar to a drug or alcohol addiction. It's just that it's a different drug of choice. It's, so it's, I think a lot of people that struggle with drug or alcohol, they also struggle with sex addiction, and vice versa. So
I think one thing that I hear from you is the commitment that it takes. There has to be a strong drive in a person to get better. In other words,
Yeah.
I always believe that anyone can do whatever they put their mind to do. And that and a lot of times too, if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, there's still part of you that actually wants to do that.
Absolutely.
That's why you're doing it. So to have that stronger pull to say, hey, this is just not the Christian thing, or I don't want to do it, or I feel like a heel. This is ruining my mind, whatever is it ruining my marriage, whatever all factors into that, you have to have, I think, that absolute commitment to say, I really do want to get better. I really do want to put it behind me.
Yeah, you have to want to be well. And like I said, I had to come to a point in my recovery where I wasn't worried about what other people were thinking about me, and I was going to kind of be selfish in my own recovery, which means like one of my biggest things was, it wasn't just the sex addiction, the porn addiction. It was also my dad left my mom when I was about 8.5, and so that left a big hole in my life as far as how like male intimacy. So
this is the trauma we're talking
right.
about.
This is part of the trauma. That's part of it. But so I always felt like I don't have anything important to say, or what, I'm just going to look stupid or something like that. So pushing past that fear was actually a big part of my recovery. But yeah, I mean, as far as wanting to be well, and there's multiple factors or multiple reasons to want to be well, like you mentioned, family, wife, children, just my mental well-being. I mean, when I was last in my addiction, I was traveling for work, and I would be like in a hotel room and just binging on porn, and I'd do that time and time again, and even sometimes I would have worship music on. I'm like, I'm not going to do it, and then since I'm keeping it to myself, invariably I do. But I don't remember.
Well, it's probably an easy thing to hide too. Because in other words, if you're at a hotel room, you're by yourself, you're traveling for work, you can probably do these things no one really knows. Or because of the way that phones are, you can be looking at stuff you shouldn't be looking at, and no one's going to know, right? So
there's so many ways around stuff. Right. Yeah, and I won't give anybody ideas, but yeah, there's plenty of ways around things. And then as part of my recovery, I need to be real with myself, and if there's certain things that I'm doing to hide stuff, I need to let whoever my accountability partner is know, and I also need to let my spouse know, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me.
Right. Do you think there's people that feel like, because of the stigma on it, because you were saying there's a certain shame, and so people don't want to come forward, that they feel, I can't, like, I literally, like, I could never tell anyone. And I'm not personally, like, I'm one of those guys, like, I'm not asking, to hear everyone's secrets. I was here a year, and somebody says, maybe I shouldn't tell you. When I was first here, if they said, I don't know if I should tell you, you'd be like, go ahead. Yeah. About a year later, I was like, no, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Feel like you shouldn't. I don't need to hear it, because I already felt I'd already heard enough in the first year of ministry to last me my entire life. So I sometimes feel like it's unfair, though, because a problem's a problem. It doesn't matter, like, if somebody's drug addiction, and they don't mind coming in here to celebrate recovery. Yeah, right? They don't mind. They walk right through the doors, and they're drug addicts. A lot of them been in jail, alcohol, who knows what all problems they're having, and they come in, and their sadness and their hurts and their hangups, and they don't mind coming and worshiping in front of people, and you're not allowed to take pictures of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not actually allowed to photograph the group, because there is privacy from that perspective. But when it comes to this, it's like, maybe they're not going to march through the doors and have a big thing, and right. Yeah, but it's no different. That's the thing. Like, but it's still just a sin, just like anything else. I think that we have to make sure that we're not judging people based on, your sin's different than mine. Your grimy little sin over there. Well, I haven't done that. You know what I'm saying? And you're worse. You're a grimier sinner than I am, because you did this instead of that. I don't think we should look at it that way. People have problems, man. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And to me, if anything, a guy lusting over a woman is probably one of the most natural things.
It's normal
tendencies in the world, right? So, I mean, I think we should have sympathy, I guess is what I'm saying, on people that struggle.
And one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast is because I wanted to put a face to the group that I'm starting. And, you know, I mean, maybe in some ways I'm very abnormal, but I think I'm a pretty normal guy overall. So, you know, it really is just...
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid, and it's iron sharpening iron.
Right.
And really, I see it as a men's group, but I see it as, you know, we're really getting down to the core of some issues, and I know that with the internet, that pornography is just it's a massive thing in our society, and then you have people starting at 7, 8 years old, and by the time they're 20 years old, they don't understand what they've been doing, and you know, it's like, oh, you know, I can't stop, you know, no matter how much I want to stop or how many times I've told God I'm going to stop, I just can't do it on my own. So that's you know, that's my drive to start this, because I know there's other men out there struggling.
That's really a big driver right there. Like when you look at addiction programs, whatever they are, is life has become unmanageable.
Right.
My life is unmanageable. And so you're turning to God. I mean, that's the first thing, right? And then you're also admitting that to somebody else, what shape and condition you're in, making amends where necessary. I mean, these are all parts of, you know, what we're doing. So to me, to admit that, to come to a group and admit it to guys who are also struggling is healthy, because that's a step forward. It's a step to healing, to getting past it.
And it can be scary. I mean, especially if it's a secret and, you know, maybe your spouse doesn't know, and, you know, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, for me, I was dying inside, even though Esther, my wife, had known about my struggle. I still kind of kept things a secret, like as far as like when I went back to it. And so the last time I reached out to somebody, I just knew that I was dying inside, so I had to reach out, and then it came to light. But so yeah, it can be a scary thing for somebody who's married with kids, and somebody who's esteemed. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I have my relationship with God, and God knows what's going on, and I don't want to be limited spiritually.
Take the step. I think that's what we're saying is take the step.
Yeah.
If you're in that situation, and whether, like you said, it's somebody who twice a month and they want to break free of that, or they're struggling with lust, or
even somebody
they're binging, whatever it is.
That hasn't looked at it for years, and like me, but I still want accountability. It's you know anybody,
right?
You know?
Right. We're not going to be writing down people's license plate numbers.
No, and so it's completely confidential.
It is, right.
And, you know, anything that we say in the group stays in the group, you know, unless it's harming somebody else or harming others. But, you know, other than that, it's confidential, and it really is iron sharpening iron. And on that note, I have a verse that kind of is relevant. Proverbs 15:22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed.
Great verse.
Yeah. So I mean, just together we can do a lot of things. Alone, we can get devoured by the wolf. So you've talked to me a lot of times about this topic. I mean, we've done a podcast on it. We've had conversations about it. Yeah.
You've sent me several texts about it. Seriously. Yes. I mean, since I've known you, I mean, this is something that we have really talked about. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I sense it's clearly on your heart. Like it is clearly on your heart that we need to reach out to people that are struggling with pornography.
Yeah.
We need to do something to help these people in a way that we are not doing now. Is this not the case?
Yeah.
In a way that the church is not helping. You're stepping into, in some ways, a void, a crack in the wall, perhaps, to say, guys, come, let us come together. Let us get together. Let us beat this addiction, right? With God's help, we can. Right. Together, we can.
Right.
Right. I think it's important. I think that's my point. It's obviously been on your heart. It's something God put on you to want to do that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I remember you had I was just in church one morning, and I think it was maybe during worship or just throughout the whole service, and I reached out to you after this, and it's just I was thinking about there's so many men out there that are struggling, and I just, it's not natural for me, or maybe it is natural, and I just don't realize it, but for me to want to start a group and lead a group, and but there's so many other men out there that are struggling, and I can use accountability myself, so it's just something that was pressed on my heart to do.
All right, good.
So
no, I'm glad for it, and I appreciate your willingness to do it. On this podcast, we will put his contact information, so a way that you can contact him if you want to be there. If you just want to show up at 7:00 on March 20th at the church, feel free to do that. So you can just come in, and Thursday night's typically very quiet night here anyway. I mean, you'll probably be, as far as I know, the only thing going on. Yeah. So you'll have the whole building to yourself.
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right.
We'll be fine.
Yeah. It'll be fine. But I would say come in, and our church is very much a not look down on people church too. Yeah. So it's like, hey, people have problems. I don't mind hearing about problems. I don't think twice about it. I just think, okay, you got a problem. Glad you admitted it. Now, how can we get you help? But I like having this resource. I think I'm excited about it. So
I'm very excited about it.
All right. Well, we'll do another podcast too and just talk about things in general and how people overcome and things like that. But I appreciate you coming in and talking about this Bible study, and we're excited to get it started.
All right.
Appreciate you tuning in. Feel free to share this podcast, like it, comment, and you all have a great and a blessed week.